Hello, my name is Tanya. I live in a forest. Sometimes I make things. And today I want to talk to you about how not to design a quilt. And to be completely honest, this video is not going to go the way I have planned it. Because, you see, in this box is my chaos quilt. I call it that because I didn't have a very clear plan when I started making it. And actually started in a different box. Now, I had a lot of fabrics that I wanted to use up because I thought, well, I want to use my Japanese fabrics. So I'm just going to cut up everything that I have into 2.5-inch squares and just randomly join them together into one gorgeous, colorful thing. And I started doing this as Luges and Anders. So as I was sewing something else, I would take 2 pieces of fabric and run them through the machine to save thread. If you know, you know. And this way I got like strips of 4. And then I would join them into 16 patches. And I had some 16 patches laying around, and then I joined them into one big thing just to see where it's going. And I didn't like it. So I thought, this is a mess, I have nothing to lose, I can just throw everything that I have into this one quilt, and it's going to be for me, because it's going to be a bit ugly probably. And so I kept making my 16 patches. I have quite a lot. And then I thought, well, I have some other unfinished things laying around. Maybe I could throw them in as well. So I took my English paper piecing things and made something like this. And I made something like this, a smaller one. And I had a block that was rejected from a green quilt. It fits in perfectly. What else? This one, my favorite English paper piecing pattern. Throw that in the box. And then I found this book. It's a lot of patchwork patterns. And I thought that, well, I like some of those. I want to try them out. So I started making just blocks out of my squares. I thought, can I adapt this to be a square? And sure, this is horrible, but I made it. I made this too. I also made some fillers, like filler blocks. I thought they would be fun. I don't like them, but I have them. And I made those gorgeous flying geese on black. Isn't this wonderful? Threw them in a box, and I have some just random things there. And then I laid them out on the floor, and I thought, that looks terrible. I don't like this at all. And you see, my problem is that blocks like that aren't really friends with blocks like that. Because this is on black, it's very colorful, and this has a lot of lights, and it's very subtle. And they don't really go together very well. So I put them on the floor, and I thought, I don't really like this. So I just put everything back in a box and felt sad for some time. And I left it for a couple months maybe. And today, I was going to make this video, and I put them all on the floor again. And I have to tell you, it kind of looks fun. I mean, I have a lot to do still and maybe be more mindful, but the direction where I was going actually works. it's going to be a little bit funky and not for everybody, but it works. But let's talk about why I thought it didn't work. And these things are things that should be obvious, but they clearly aren't too obvious. I'm a designer, by the way, so I should think about those things. But I think that because the process of designing this particular quilt wasn't very straightforward, even though I have kind of a scheme, I was thinking about the masses, how I'm going to put things and how many blocks I need, so I have a little drawing of things. Like I was going to have 2 big blobs of those and put them in different corners. They were going to be different sizes, and everything else was going to be filled by other things. I'm going to put this on the screen right now so that you can marvel on the genius that I had. When we design a quilt, normally, like this one, this is a green and white quilt, and it has a pattern that repeats throughout the quilt. Usually, even when we make something like a sampler quilt, it has a color scheme that's limited. So we choose maybe 2 or 3 colors, maybe a color palette that's a little bit broader, but it's all in the same kind of vibe. Maybe it's all pastels, maybe it's all kind of natural colors, something hobbity. And sometimes it's like this. It's everything. And the only thing that unites those fabrics is that I bought them. So you don't see a lot of purples, and even though there are purples in here. But main colors that I tend to use are greens and reds, and maybe yellows. This is a good demonstration of what I like. I also like black. So the colors that I use are reflected in here. But other than that, it's pure chaos. It's just whatever. And that's not how you design a quilt normally. Usually you choose a pattern and you choose a color family, color scheme, and you go from there. And this way everything looks like a whole piece as an art project. And when you do something like this, you might fail, but I think that today when I put it on the floor, then maybe it's going to work. So what have we learned today? First of all, what you think isn't always what you think, and I came in with an assumption that I'm going to turn my pile of blocks into 2 or 3 quilts. I thought that maybe I'll take those and make them into a whole quilt made of those squares. And it's going to make sense because everything is small, and when everything is so small it kind of blends in together. Even though it's a mess, it's going to be a fun, colorful mess. I kind of like those. And then I thought I'm going to make a smaller light quilt because I already have 2 quilts in the works that I kind of in this palette. I thought, well, I'm a little bit bored, but I'm going to take the fabrics that I have in this palette and just use them on a quilt and have that as a separate thing. And then I'm going to take my colorful things with black background and turn them into another quilt that's going to be for me, and it's going to be more chaotic and fun like that. But now I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to try and pull off the complete chaos. Anyway, the lesson still is how not to design a quilt, because what I do is not a good idea. As you can probably see, I'm full of doubts, and doubts are unpleasant, and the results still may turn out horrible, and it's not going to be to everybody's liking, surely. This way it's going to be for me, and even if it's terrible, it's going to be warm and cozy and cuddling. Yeah, so that's thank you for being with me today, and I'll see you next week, hopefully with something more positive.